The auditorium was electric when Denzel Washington strode onto the stage of the National Forum on Leadership and Culture, the crowd rising in respectful applause for the screen legend and acclaimed humanitarian. But the energy shifted palpably when Karoline Leavitt, the firebrand political figure known for her sharp commentary, took the adjacent podium to introduce him, beginning her remarks with a glib, "And now, please sit down, boy," a phrase that cut through the applause like a lightning strike, freezing the audience mid-cheer, her tone laced with provocation. Gasps rippled through the hall, murmurs of disbelief echoing across rows of students, journalists, activists, and everyday Americans who had tuned in live. And though Leavitt expected a reaction, she seemed momentarily surprised by the stunned hush that followed, as if she had forgotten the weight of her words when directed at a living legend, a man whose every step had redefined dignity, excellence, and resilience in American culture. The tension thickened as Denzel, polished even in shock, paused, lifted his gaze, and met her eyes with a calm intensity that silenced the room, his posture unwavering, shoulders squared, his breathing steady. It felt like time slowed as he walked, deliberately toward the microphone, placing his hand on it gently, the echo of his presence commanding more power than any adversarial line. Then he said, "Thank you, Karoline, for that introduction," his voice controlled but firm, and though the audience braced for a scathing response, he simply nodded, offered a warm smile that held no bitterness, and began, "But tonight I stand not to retaliate, but to elevate this moment." In that moment, a hush enveloped the stage as he acknowledged America's long and complicated history with race, identity, and power. How language can wound, how context matters, and how every generation must choose whether to build bridges or burn them. He recalled his own path, from tragedy to triumph in impoverished corners of New York, from joyous breakthroughs to painful setbacks, and how in each instance simple courtesy and mutual respect became his guiding lights, not because he sought to avoid conflict, but because he learned that dignity often speaks louder than outrage. Yet he didn't skirt the insult. He addressed it directly, noting that words have consequences and "sit down, boy" carries a historical legacy of silencing. He paused to look squarely at Leavitt, his tone earnestly unifying. "I refuse to let it define me or this moment." The hall sat silent, hanging on his every word, even those skeptical who believed that confrontation required condemnation. Then Denzel shifted, telling a story of a time he was dismissed early in his career. Doors slammed, opportunities denied, not because he lacked talent, but because society expected him to step down. He remembered being told to stop dreaming, and how those words propelled him, not in anger, but in defiance grounded in self-belief. He said he had learned that responding to disdain with grace did not mean weakness. It meant standing taller. The audience inhaled as he moved into a broader message about leadership and responsibility. True leaders do not replicate the insults, they dismantle them. He praised Leavitt for her passion and visibility in politics, affirming that disagreement is not discord, that civility is not cowardice, and that dissent can coexist with respect if done from a place of listening rather than labeling. At that pivot, he extended an invitation. "Karoline, let's change the narrative. Sit down with me, not to belittle, but to begin a dialogue that might set an example for a polarized nation." It was a moment pregnant with possibility, as Leavitt, caught off guard, softened visibly, her jaw unclenching. Denzel continued, emphasizing how real progress demands conversation, difficult, uncomfortable, raw, but never at the expense of one another's humanity. He cited historical figures who bridged divides not with grandstanding, but with openness. Dr. King, Mandela, and Rosa Parks, and he said each had understood that civility was not compliance, but courage. Then turning to the audience, he said, "Let this be the moment we reject silencing and choose speaking, even when it's hard, even when it's imperfect." The room was rapt, tears flickering on cheeks, cameras fixed on stern faces learning. Something unexpected about forgiveness and power. And when Denzel concluded, he invited Karoline Leavitt on stage, offering her a seat next to him, and the air in the hall shifted from tense to tender. A sense that what just happened wasn't entertainment, it was an ethical watershed. Leavitt, for a moment hesitant, walked slowly forward as Denzel nodded encouragement. She sat. The audience leaned in as she found the microphone and offered a quiet apology, not forced, but sincere, for the phrase she used, recognizing its pain. She said she meant no disrespect, but acknowledged she had ignored her own word's history, and that hearing Denzel speak so thoughtfully about it forced her to reflect. Tears glistened in her eyes, the armor of politics slipping, as she admitted her anger had come from frustration, not malice. Denzel responded, "Thank you for this moment," and they spent the remainder of the evening in a soft-spoken but substantive dialogue on race, respect, leadership, each challenging and uplifting the other, their voices blending in contrast and cadence, their words unedited and direct. The audience moved, erupted in applause long after the stage lights dimmed, as though they were witnessing reconciliation in its purest form. News coverage exploded the next morning. Headlines read, "Washington turns insult into invitation, dignity over drama, and polar opposites, common ground." Social media buzzed with clips of Denzel's offer, the image of Leavitt seated beside him, and tweets splintered between praise and political analysis. Think pieces emerged, debating whether this was a PR moment or something deeper, with many concluding that it transcended politics. It exposed the art of leadership, rooted in empathy. And long after the forum ended, people remembered not the insult but the invitation, and the way Denzel Washington, asked to sit down, refused, instead turning the moment into a masterclass on courage, civility, and the real power of words that heal instead of harm.